It's like the movie Saw in real life. A man was strapped with a bomb and forced to rob a bank. And then they mocked me and ordered me to look for a way to turn off the bomb. It was a simple day in Erie, Pennsylvania. No one could have imagined that this small American town would forever be included in the catalog of mysterious criminal incidents. Just one phone call set in motion a series of events that culminated in a terrible death. A middle-aged pizza delivery man named Brian Wells entered the bank branch. In his right hand, he held a short cane, and a mysterious convex object was visible under the collar of his t-shirt. 46-year-old balding Wells waited patiently for his turn. Approaching the cash register, he handed over a note with the text, "Gather employees who have access codes to the vault and fill the bag with $250,000 as soon as possible. You only have 15 minutes. Then he pulled up his t-shirt, revealing a massive device hanging around his neck. It was a bomb. It was worth acting quickly. But the cashier couldn't get access to the vault so quickly and gave Brian a bag with 80702. Wells left the bank, sucking on a lollipop that he had grabbed from the cash register, got into the car, and drove away. However, he did not manage to get far. 15 minutes later, patrol police officers noticed Wells standing in the nearest parking lot next to car. State police surrounded Wells' car and ordered him to get out. Brian sat down on the road, leaning against the front of his car, and lifted his t-shirt to show them the bomb. The pizza delivery man was handcuffed and put on the asphalt. He begged to remove the bandage attached to his neck. Wires similar to an explosive device were hidden under Brian's t-shirt, although the man claimed that he did not know whether it was a real device or not. The patrolman called a bomb squad and hid behind cars with weapons in their hands. Film crews arrived and began filming what was happening. For the next 25 minutes, Wells sat on the sidewalk with his legs tucked under him. Wells insisted that he was not a willing accomplice to the conspiracy.
"It's not me. She's going to explode. I'm not lying,"
he told the guards.
"I was captured. 3 unknown persons attached a bomb to my neck, handed a shotgun in the form of a cane and told to rob a bank, then throw a bag of money near McDonald's."
Suddenly, the device on his neck began to emit a quickening beep. Wells fussed. He was trying to step back to somehow get away from the bomb tied to his neck. And then there was an explosion from which a wound with a diameter of about 12 cm was formed in his chest. The pizza delivery man fell to the asphalt, took a few breaths, and died. 3 minutes later, a squad of sappers arrived. They got into a traffic jam due to the fact that the police did not block the highway. A walking stick about 60 Vcm long was found in Brian Wells' car, which turned out to be an artfully executed pistol. The bomb itself was also a miracle of engineering and was assembled by hand. Investigators assumed that the device was manufactured using professional tools. 2 kitchen timers and an electronic countdown timer were also built into the device. They served as baits for triggering potential blockers. There were also stickers with false warnings. In a word, it was quite a clever invention. However, the most surprising and intriguing things were the handwritten notes found in Brian's car. They said Wells had to rob a bank of $250,000 and then find various keys and codes scattered all over Erie. There were also drawings, detailed maps, and threats. If Wells had done everything that is written there, he would have received the necessary combinations to defuse the bomb. In case of failure or disobedience, the bomb was supposed to explode. The note read as follows:
"The only way to survive is to cooperate. This powerful booby trap can only be removed by following our instructions. Act first, then think. Otherwise, you will die."
It seemed that the man who planned the robbery also staged a nightmarish hunt for Wells, the prize of which was his life. Another intrigue was brought by Wells' clothes. He was wearing 2 t-shirts at the time of his death. The Guess logo was printed on top. Relatives reported that when Brian left for work in the morning, he was not wearing this t-shirt. And in general, such a t-shirt, in principle, was not in his wardrobe. This was one of the many questions that puzzled the investigators. What was the ultimate goal of this terrible hunt? Why send such a hostage somewhere in broad daylight? Why scatter notes with instructions in public places where anyone can find them? Why was Wells chosen as a hostage? Later, investigators determined that the bomb would have exploded even if all the prescribed tasks had been performed flawlessly. Brian Wells didn't stand a chance. The criminals planned to kill him to remove an unnecessary witness. It seemed that John Kramer really existed, and he started this game with a tragic end. The FBI has been working on this case for 7 years. It turned out that the collar fuse had planned the hunt as skillfully as he had captured Wells. The only question was whether the feds could get any further than Wells in this case. FBI Special Case No. 203, with the support of the state police and ATF, the FBI took over the investigation. The question remained unclear. Was Brian Wells a participant in the robbery, or was he a victim of it? For about 30 years, the man worked at Mamma Mia Pizzeria and was considered an exemplary employee, not a criminal. In Wells' car, investigators found several more notes with instructions. Together, they made up 9 pages of handwritten text. The handwriting examination could not establish whose hand the text belonged to, since the note was written and copied on a typewriter. The note for Wells had its own rules. For each key found, the man received extra time, and at the end of the route, the bomb was defused. During the investigative experiment, it turned out that even under the most successful circumstances, Brian Wells would not have had time to make it all the way. In other words, the author of The Insane Quest deliberately deprived the victim of a chance for salvation. A thorough inspection of the explosive collar also proved fruitless. His device turned out to be surprisingly complex, although it consisted of only explosives and 2 timers. The investigators were unable to establish the details and the place of their purchase. On the day of the robbery, after lunch, Mamma Mia's Pizzeria received a call to place an order. The order, the place of delivery of which was a TV tower on the outskirts, went to Wells Delivery. The order included 2 pizzas with sausages and pepperoni. The tower was located next to the house owned by Bill Rothstein, who, a month after the fatal bank robbery, called 911 to report a frozen corpse in his freezer. Rothstein claimed that his ex-fiancée Marjorie Deal Armstrong killed her boyfriend James Roden and asked him to help clean up his body in the scene. Rothstein kept the body in the freezer for 5 weeks before calling the police, saying he was afraid of what Dill Armstrong would do to him. Oddly enough, Rothstein wrote a suicide note that began with the words, "This has nothing to do with the Wells case." Deal Armstrong was arrested for the murder of Roden, and in 2005 she was sentenced to 7 to 20 years in prison after she pleaded guilty but mentally ill. It wasn't the first boyfriend death that Deal Armstrong had been involved with. In 1984, she was accused of murdering her boyfriend Robert Thomas, but acquitted after she claimed she shot him in self-defense. 4 years later, her husband Richard Armstrong died of a brain hemorrhage after visiting a hospital with a head injury. And in an attempt to make a deal to transfer to a maximum security prison, Deal Armstrong confessed to involvement in the Pizza Bomber case. She admitted to setting kitchen timers for the bomb and claimed that Rothstein, who died of cancer in 2004, was the mastermind behind the crime. Deal Armstrong also claimed Wells was involved in the robbery. A few months later, a co-conspirator named Kenneth Barnes was arrested, who claimed that Deal Armstrong was actually the mastermind of the conspiracy. Barnes claimed that she needed bank money to pay him for the murder of her father, who, in her opinion, was wasting her inheritance. In the end, Deal Armstrong was left with nothing. Another informant also claimed that Deal Armstrong killed James Roden because he was going to tell someone about the robbery. Deal Armstrong was sentenced to life in prison. Police were also told that Wells believed he would be wearing a dummy bomb, but he was tricked and was destined to die after being caught on a scavenger hunt. In 2008, Barnes was sentenced to 45 years in prison on charges of bank robbery, conspiracy, and possession of weapons. In 2011, Deal Armstrong was sentenced to life in prison. She died in 2017. This is the story, friends. Sad and confused. Write your opinion in the comments. And subscribe, new videos coming soon.